And we're back here at Pizza Hut in Bucyrus with Coach's Corner West. And we want to mention that we're brought to you in part by Blythe Friedley and Todd McDougall at Friedley and Company Insurance in New Washington, Ted Coder at Monarch Body Shop in New Washington, and the Ohio State University at Marion, a Big Ten education close to home. We have with us this evening Buckeye Central girls head coach Abram Kaple. Welcome, Abram. Good to see you again.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in on. I told these guys coming in on a bad night, but you had to drive 15 miles to get here.
Well, luckily I live right across the street, so. That's what I was telling Coach Lloyd when I got to the school, because we were debating on like how we were going to handle practice, and I said, listen, some of those valleys, like where the crosswind blows, there's some snow there. So, yeah. But luckily 4-wheel drive, we managed. So
sure. A quick story on that. One night, Brian Siebert and Rob McCurdy and I got in Brian's van, drove up to Old Men's League, and on the way up, we heard that there was a level 3 snow emergency going on.
Dedicated.
And then we debated, should we turn around? And I said, heck no, we're halfway there. Let's go play.
Were they playing?
And they were playing. And we, the three of us, made 10.
Oh, really? Yeah. That's awesome.
We had an act.
They still have it. I haven't been out there. Since I tore my Achilles, I haven't played in 4 years.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with that.
Nope, done.
On surgery, that's enough.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, good deal. Well, listen, season rolls on, even though you went half the season without your best player, you're still in a pretty good position, number 2 in the state.
Yeah, we're fortunate, right? And obviously, it's been a topic of conversation the past couple of weeks now that we have Claudia back. But, when things kind of happened, it was obviously a bummer for both us as a coaching staff, for our players, and then obviously, most importantly for Claudia. But, we kind of talked to the kids about what are we going to do, right? Obviously, the injury can't be changed. She's not coming back anytime soon. So are you going to step up and answer the call, or are you guys going to kind of run from adversity? And, Emily Cecil really, really stepped up and took charge, right? Obviously, in having Claudia injured, but then the departure of Taylor Ratliff, and she's had a phenomenal season thus far. And then some of those other ones were asked to do more than what they were probably expected to coming into the season. And then for us to be 10-1 without her and now 3-0 with her, we're in a good spot. We're happy with where we're at, and, things couldn't have went any better. I guess you could put it on paper.
Yeah, and obviously you're not going to expect one player to come in and replace Claudia Pfeiffer. That's not going to happen.
No,
but
for sure.
It was kind of a team filling the gaps.
Absolutely. And if you really look at our box scores, Emily, I think almost every game led us in scoring. But then we had 4 other people at times that were in double figures, at least 4. There was times where Kate Cecil had a big game, and Cindy Worm had a big game, and Riley Concert, Julie Evac, Kenny Devin, right? There's 5 that I just named, and all scored double figures at one point in time. So Emily was always pretty much our leading scorer, but that second person changed on any given night. And to be able to have that depth and to have that many kids that can score the basketball, it does a lot of things now that, Claudia is back, right? And Emily and Claudia basically occupied defenders 1 and 2 for the other teams. But then, we feel really confident that our 3, 4, and 5 are good enough to get the job done versus the other teams 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, your one loss is to state-ranked Shelby. I mean, not really any.
No.
And without Claudia.
Right. And obviously we go into every game with the expectation that we're going to win. And we treated that game as if we were going to win. We scouted heavy just like we do every other game. And we played really, really well for 3.5 quarters. And Shelby's phenomenal. They're deep, they're athletic. They can score the basketball. Obviously, they can defend. And, in hindsight, we played about as well as we could have for 3.5 quarters. And, the depth kind of ended up being an issue. And, we struggled to rebound at times. And that ended up being the difference in the game.
And you're playing that's a Division II school.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're, like you said, they're state ranked. They haven't been beat, so they're no slouch. And, it ended up being 71-55, which is a 16-point game. People look at that and you kind of got blown out. But if you were there, and as a losing coach, I can say this with confidence, it's more of an 8 to 10 point game. And I think Natalie Lance and their players would say the exact same thing. So, and we go into that game at the same time, like as coaches, nothing's lost, right? You're challenging yourself. You're on the road, a bigger school. It's a non-conference game. So, we go in there with, hoping to learn some lessons, and we did. So, mission complete.
Good test for tournament too.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're not gonna face even if you get to the regionals, many teams that are better than Shelby.
Right, and we feel that way, and it felt like very much like a regional type game. There was a big crowd, a lot of media. We were on TV. A highly anticipated game with, at the time, both teams were undefeated. So there's a lot to take away from that game in terms of things that we can use moving forward and reflect back to be like, hey, we experienced this, battle tested, and then maybe we execute a little bit differently down the stretch.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a break here and give some credits to our sponsors, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more with Coach Kaple. Again, he didn't have any of his girls come tonight because the weather is bad, and we certainly don't want anybody to, risk
just not with a big game tomorrow.
Yeah, just for a show. We like doing this show, and we
Yeah.
appreciate you guys coming, but we don't expect you to go
Sure.
In a dangerous situation. We're brought to you in part by Mike Kleinite at Ag Credit, Residential Lending, Bucyrus, Mount Gilead, and Marion, Dr. Thomas M. Britton at Clubview Vision Center, Luann Krebs at River's Edge Embroidery, Screen Printing and Signs, Route 309 across from the Marion Depot. So speaking of big games, probably from a league standpoint, the second of your two biggest games in the league, and again, not to put anybody else down in the league, but I think everybody else in the league would say the same thing. You have Seneca East tomorrow night, and really is probably the showdown for the league.
Yeah, and that's kind of the message that we had at practice, and like you said, that's just how we're approaching it. If tomorrow's the league championship game, with being in a 1-game lead ahead of them, in theory, thinking that a 2-game lead would kind of do the trick in terms for a league championship. So, that's kind of our message. We played Saturday, so somewhat of a short turnaround to only have 1 day of kind of prepping and going over their stuff and what we're going to do from a mental aspect. So that's what today was pretty much in practice, was preparing for them, what they're going to do, and what we anticipate to do to them.
And it's not like you guys don't know each other. So,
Right.
You pretty much know what Don Vogt's going to do and what his personnel is capable of, and it's just a matter of
absolutely. We're basically playing them 3 times a year, so we're very familiar, and obviously being close in proximity, I think that's how you say that, 5-6 miles away. It's something that, we look forward to. Our kids get excited. They're obviously familiar with some of the athletes, Kate and Emily in particular, obviously going to school there. So it is a game that's, that we look forward to playing, and we're excited for tomorrow night.
Sure. And again, probably a big crowd going to be there. They bring some fans. You definitely will bring some fans.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully the weather kind of holds off and the wind doesn't keep blowing. It warms up a little bit. But, I told the kids after practice, and I make sure you text your friends and, maybe some of your extended family, because if they want a chance to see a game, this will be a good one for them to come out and get a chance to look at us.
And unfortunately, as we talked off air, we aren't going to be able to have that game on the radio tomorrow night. But Dan Clutter will be there to cover for Crawford County now, and I'm still working on. I'm hoping to have a photographer there for photo gallery as well.
And I don't know. I mean, we Buckeye Central, we live stream our game. So if you're looking to kind of tune in, BC Athletic Department on their Twitter would have the live stream link. So if you have interest in watching, you can't make it out. I know my grandma watches the majority of our games because it's easier access that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, for older folks that don't want to get out, travel in the weather. And there's some shut-ins too. There's some folks that can't get out of the house. They're homebound, or maybe they're in a nursing facility or an assisted living. Perfect.
That's one. I guess we can look at it. That's one positive that COVID brought was, last year obviously everybody had to find ways to live stream games, and a lot of schools have decided to stick with it. So there's a lot of benefits to some of those people that you talked about, with schools continuing to do that. And at Buckeye Central, we do it for free. So.
Yeah, and I think they used to look at it like, even the OHSAA, like, oh, well, if we stream this, you're going to lose game.
Yeah.
I don't really think that's the case. I think most people that are real fans, they're going to go to the game anyway.
Yeah. But in a situation like tomorrow where the weather could still be bad, yeah, it gives those opportunities there. So I think it's really cool that we do that. And
Yeah.
kids can always say that they're on TV, I guess.
Yeah. So, again, for you guys that are watching us on the podcast, that'll come up sometime later this evening. This is Monday. I don't think Coach Kaple is in any way saying that other teams in the league aren't capable of beating either.
Yeah, right.
It's just the fact that through the first round, and again, looking at the outlook of the second round, this is really a pretty key game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and kind of like you said, in the first go around, people would be like, well, we won by 21, right? And I think it was 47-26 or 47-28, something to that degree. But that's not really a true outlook. Seneca East was down 2 starters due to COVID or other types of illness, and so they're forced to play 2 kids up that they weren't planning on playing. Then on the other side of the coin, obviously we didn't have Claudia. So this will be, more of a truer look as to what both teams are.
Both at full strength.
Yeah, and we feel really confident in saying that this is probably a preview of the district final. So, we'll see. We have to do some things better than what we've been doing recently, and that's kind of the thing that we've talked about. We've played some really good first halves, the last 2 weeks, but then we kind of flatline a little bit in the second half, and that's, something that we've been kind of discussing is the ability to put forward 4 good quarters of basketball. And tomorrow night we're going to have to be able to do that. Otherwise, you're going to be in for, a real dogfight.
Kind of probably a little bit of an easy thing to fall into because so many of your games are kind of decided in the first half. So you sort of are able to take the second half off. In a game like this, you really can't do that.
Yeah, and I feel really confident that tomorrow that won't be the case, right? In terms of us being mentally and physically engaged for all 4 quarters. It's really tough to do, right? Sometimes when you build a lead, it's hard to kind of keep your foot on the gas and have that, constant killer instinct of, being aggressive at all times. So it's tough to do as a coach, right? And then it's also, tough to do as a player. So, in the games that, like the Shelby game, for example, like we put together 4 really good quarters and we absolutely had to. Unfortunately, just came up a little bit short. Now tomorrow we're going to have to put together 4 really good quarters and hopefully the outcome is a little bit different than it was against Shelby.
Yeah. Again, never hurts to have Claudia Pike.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. We got a lot of kids, and we're gonna have to be able to make shots. Seneca East plays primarily zone, a combination of 2-3 and 3-2, and they sprinkle in some 1-3-1. So
they got size,
right? They got size to protect the basket, and one thing that we do from an offensive standpoint is Emily and Claudia are really good at getting to the rim and finishing there. And if they do draw help, we have other spot shooters around them. So you add 6 foot and 6'1" or whatever they have inside. Easy baskets at the rim are hard to come by. So we're going to have to be able to make some shots from the perimeter and take the easy ones when we do get those opportunities.
I've seen them once this year, and the Cook girl is she's really athletic, and with her, like you say, with her size, it's kind of hard to get to the rim.
Right, Cook and Bo's both, and like you said, when you get to the rim, they do a good job of altering shots or making you do like a pull-up jumper or a floater as opposed to getting all the way to the rack. So again, we feel confident in our zone stuff, but at the end of the day, Kate and Sid and Riley and Kennedy, they're going to have to make shots from the perimeter in order for us to be successful.
Okay. Well, I know the area fans are going to be tuning in for that one.
Yeah.
They're going to be riveted, looking for the final score if nothing else.
Right,
It's a very important game in the Northern 10 Athletic Conference. Okay, well, again, Coach Kaple, we appreciate you coming out tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though you don't have to come across the street.
Yeah.
That's a good thing, actually.
No doubt.
No doubt.
Thanks for having me.
We want to remind you once again that we're brought to you in part by Doug Bootholt and Adam Weisner and Associates at Advanced Fiber Technology, Coach Tim Plumley at Mohegan Sports Medicine and Rehabilitation, Matt Studer, Spitzler, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and Kia, 1 mile east of the Richland Mall. We have a really big week of sports coming up. We want to, first of all, give our thanks to everyone here at Pizza Hut who has been more than gracious in taking care of us tonight, including General Manager Crystal Stewart. I want to thank also our remote engineers and camera operators, Cameron Moon and Harper Boggs. They do a great job. I am technically challenged, so I wouldn't be able to do this on my own, so appreciate their work. And once again, coming up for this week, we have a big week of sports. Tomorrow night on WQEL, we have Bucyrus at Winford Girls, big backyard rivalry there. Josh Stallings will have the call there. On Thursday, we are at Galleon, Marion Harding at Galleon Boys. Again, Josh Stallings will have the call. On Friday, Colonel Crawford at Seneca East Girls, and Josh will have the call there. Saturday, we have a doubleheader. Cary at Winford Boys on WQEL. Josh will have that call. And Colonel Crawford at Bucyrus Boys on WBCO. And that will be called by Jared Moore. I have one correction. I have to go back. The Bucyrus at Winford Girls game, Jeff Roberts will be calling that game rather than Josh Stallings. So on behalf of all our guests from Bucyrus, Winford, and Buckeye Central, this is Dan Messerschmidt. Have a good evening, everyone.